So let's take a look at arithmetic sequences. This time we're going to look at explicit. So when you're looking at arithmetic sequences, this is the formula sheet / working sheet. There are two. So this one is explicit. I'm going to look specifically at. All right, so in order to begin, you have to know what these terms or what these letters mean. So that's what we're going to start with first. So looking at this number right here, all right, let's talk about our definitions. So a sub 1 is our first term, a sub 2 is our second term, a sub 3 is our third term, a sub 4 is our fourth term, and so forth. All right, n is the term number. So what we're going to do is this. This is how I'm just going to remind you. N is the term number. In equations, n is x. So that way you can put those together. So where you see n, it's another way of, it's very similar to linear equations, just another way of saying x. And then the a sub n piece, where is that? The a sub 1 piece is the y, okay? So anytime you have a sequence, what I want you to do is just make a table. So we're going to make a table here so that it is just not confusing for you. After each number, go ahead and draw a column. All right, and then I'm going to remind you, so please make sure that you're writing this down. X in linear equations is the same as n, all right, the term number. So this first number is 1, second number 2, third number 3, fourth number 4, and so forth. All right, where you usually see y in equations, that's called a sub n. The n referencing the same n as here. So for example, if I wanted to read this, I would say a sub 1 because n is 1, right? A sub 1 is negative 14. Here, because n is 2, I would say a sub 2 is negative 17. Because n is 3, a sub 3 is negative 20. Because n is 4, a sub 4 is negative 23. So that's how you read it. So again, this just simply means when n is 1, my y or my a sub n is negative 14. Which number is when n is 3? Go ahead and draw an arrow to that. When n is 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so that's just going over what those letters mean. Now we're going to apply them. So before we begin, let's go ahead and check your understanding. If you do not remember what these are, just rewind the video and listen to the explanation again. What does a sub n mean? So here are the boxes. Draw an arrow to what does a sub n mean. What does a sub 1 mean? So again, here are your options. Draw an arrow to what a sub 1 is. What does d mean? So here are your options. Go ahead and draw an arrow to what d means. And then what does, just by what's left, n minus 1 mean? So here are your options. Go ahead and draw an arrow. So again, if you understand what each thing is, it's just a matter of putting in the numbers. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at an actual example. So I'm going to do this example that has two parts, and you're going to do this example. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and just write it down. So for you, you're going to write a sub n equals, and then a sub, what are we trying to find this? 7, a sub 7 equals. So those are the two things that I want when I do my two things, you're doing your two things. All right, so we are actually going to start off in the calculator as always. Just like we did in the explanation, we're going to make a table as always. Try and squeeze it there. If there's no space, you can just recopy it like this. Okay, so I'm just going to squeeze it in because that's good. All right, so I'm going to make a table. So as always, I separate that, and then after each number, I draw a column. This is going to be my x value. This is going to be my y value. In sequences, it's my nth value, and this is my a sub n value. Very important that you know that because, again, we're not going to be saying x, we're going to be saying n, and we're not going to be saying y, we're going to be saying a sub something. All right, so this is my first number, so I'm going to put the number 1 here. This is my second number, so I'm going to put the number 2 there. This is my third number, so I'm going to put the number 3 there. All right, so you're going to repeat that for your question right here. Go ahead and make a table. Now that we made a table, it's very easy to convert to what we've been doing in equations. We're going to put a table in, plus sign, table. Here's my table, copy it down. So I have x is 1, x is 2, x is 3, and then my y values are 1, negative 9, and negative 19. At this point, please make sure you have not copied my question down, you've copied your question down. All right, now that I know that, it says write an explicit formula. Okay, so to do that, I need to know what my first term is, what my common difference is. All right, perfect. Now that I know that, I need that. I'm going to always hit zoom fit so it can fit my points. This is how I check if I'm doing my question correctly. I'm going to hit flag so it can draw my regression line. And now I have my equation, right? So this is my equation. I can see what my slope is. So I have all the information that I need to write it because it says, I'm going to use this one instead of the formula sheet. A sub n equals, so that's what I'm going to write here. A sub n equals, and then I need my first number. What was my first number? 1. So again, as I'm doing my question, you're doing yours. So you're looking at A sub n equals, what is your first number? Okay, then next is D. D is the common difference, and we're going to add some notes here to where you do your arrow. You should have drawn an arrow going to D here. Common difference is equal to slope. It's going to be very important. D is equal to M. That's going to be something I tell you all the time so that you know how to put in the numbers. All right, so D is equal to M, and because it goes Y equals MX plus B, M is my slope, and B is my y-intercept. So my slope is negative 10. Whatever your slope is what you're putting in your answer. So mine is negative 10. Notice I don't put plus and then minus 10, right? It's whatever D is. So if it's a positive, it's plus the number. If it's a negative, it's negative the number. And then next is parentheses, n minus 1. And that's it. I've written the explicit formula. So at this point, you should have written yours, your first number, plus or minus your common difference, parentheses, n minus 1. All right, so I've written the explicit formula. The second question is evaluated for the 10th term. So what they're asking, remember when you see 10th term, they're asking when x equals 10, what's the answer? So when x equals 10, or remember we said x is no longer x, but it's what, n. So I'm going to say when n equals 10, okay, what does that answer give me? So what do I have to do? I have to copy the equation, with the notepad, or just copy the equation. Then I have to hit gear or settings and then table. Rewind if I'm going too fast because I've covered this in my previous video. Come to the very end, hold down enter until you get to the number that you want. For me, I want 10, and 10 is negative 89. So for me, my answer is negative 89. So go ahead and do it for you. For you, you're looking for when n is 7 or when x is 7, what is your answer? So go ahead and write that down. And that's all you have to do with sequences, just understanding what the letters are and being able to get it from the calculator. Let's practice.